We have talked on and off in the past about, shall we say, the government's grand plans in the past for levelling up the North, creating a northern powerhouse. Now, on paper, on paper, these ideas are good. Giving the North hundreds of thousands of pounds for infrastructure, business development, really getting the North working again. And as George Osborne once described it, the North is a true engine that has now stopped working, and it's time to turn it back into a powerhouse to reinvigorate manufacturing, jobs, infrastructure into this area and get it working again for the whole beneficiament of the UK. Now, of course, fancy words and, nice calligraphy on paper is one thing, but actually having the policy and doing and following through on that policy is an entirely separate thing. And many people will also remember the grand northern powerhouse from the Cameron Osborne years basically resulted in, well, Leeds train station got a new exit. So, every time you use that, thanks, Cameron, I suppose. But other than that, Northern Powerhouse didn't really go anywhere. And of course, the grand promises of levelling up, well, the Tories have not put the money into what they have even said they need to achieve levelling up here in the North. And it gets even more funnier because today we're going to go over a conference that happened just last weekend. This was meant to be a big flagship conference to show this is the North, this is the Northern powerhouse. It brought together all kinds of talent and to show this is what the North can do, this is what it can offer. And yet, not one single Tory MP turned up to this conference despite being invited. And it doesn't stop there because, oh boy, does it get quite funnier than this. So we're going to go diving into this and finding out what happened because, oh my word. It asked the question in the article, but I sort of agree. It's either just complete disdain for the North or just complete indifference. I suppose by the end of the video, you be the judge. And like I say, let me know down in the comments below. But before we do get into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and one off-donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. And of course, down below, there are links to my Pony Club, of course, and of course, the YouTube thank you button as well. You know all this by now, but of course, as always, guys, thank you very much. And of course, on with the show. So, over we go today to the Yorkshire Bylines, their coverage of this absolute failure of a conference that was meant to, again, be a big showcase for the North. So, the Northern powerhouse gets the cold shoulder from the government. If one wants to look at an example of why the government is messing up so consistently, then look no further than the Parliamentary Undersecretary for Levelling Up, Devona Davidson, who managed to send the wrong video link to a major conference. And that is online. If you actually click that, that will take you to the video that was live streaming. And oh yeah, that was bad. And most of you, by the way, if you've been paying attention for the past sort of couple of weeks, we've been talking about a number of, shall we say, Tories jumping ship. Devona Davidson is one of those Tories, one of those brand new shiny red wall Tories. Indeed, meant to be one of the stars of that 2019 Red Wall intake. Yeah, she's standing down as an MP because she doesn't think she can win her seat anymore. Although probably not officially what she said, but she's standing down. She's barely been even an MP for 3 years. That's how much faith they've got that they will hold the red wall in the next election. But anyway, back to it. So, Davidson was scheduled to be speaking at the Great Northern Conference that took place on Wednesday at the University Academy 92 in Manchester. Like all other Conservative MPs and ministers scheduled to appear, she might have found some other pressing business to avoid coming up north. So, the hapless minister sent a pre-recorded video. It's just that the wrong video was sent, and instead a bemused and packed audience had to watch a short TikTok piece on the day in the life of Davidson. Look, it happens to the best of us. But at a time when the government looks as though not only has it lost the plot, but also most of the North, then you would think they would try harder. But of course, the standout thing from this One North Great Northern Conference is that only Labour have turned up. Tom Forth complained on Twitter that the CTO and co-founder of Data City went on to say that Labour's Metro Mayors turned up, the shadow cabinet turned up, their MPs turned up, and the Tories just may as well, many have well been invited, but could have come and haven't even turned up. Yes, that's right. Not one Tory managed to make it to Manchester, despite the fact that this is the annual showcase conference for businesses in the North. And yet, this government may very well need all the support that they can muster in those pesky red wall constituencies in the coming months. It was 8 years ago that the then Chancellor George Osborne first floated the idea of the Northern Powerhouse. He spoke of how the northern cities of this country could, quote, take on the world, waxing lyrical on how specifically getting the connectivity right would unleash all the power in the north. Like I said at the beginning, fancy words, but never ever followed through on policy. But back to it. 8 years later, and we are no further forward. In fact, this particular train has never left the station. If anything is going backwards, and it is the beginning to cause real anger among Northern politicians, with Labour's Rachel Reeves claiming that plans to downgrade the Northern Powerhouse Rail, also known as HS3, are a huge letdown for the North and a betrayal of everything that was promised. This conference kept coming back to transport and connectivity, and most notably was the speech from Finbar Downing, the localization director of Siemens Mobility Limited. He talked of how the forgotten places of the North needed to be remembered. Places like Goole, which has the UK's deepest inland port and could be part of a big northern renaissance. Instead, it punches below its weight due to poor connectivity. It is hard to get anywhere by train, and notably poor connections to get to Leeds, one of the financial and job centres of Yorkshire. It would also be easy to have a pop and say nothing has changed since Osborne talked of unleashing the power of the North. He had been to the most of the annual Powerhouse conferences since its inception. The pessimist in me says that the only one thing that changes is the year. The constant issues have not moved on. This is blatantly unfair. The technological advances, the people making the differences are there in abundance. And so much of this conference, they heard from business leaders who are women. That certainly wasn't the case over 8 years ago. And listening to Philippa Gova, the MD and NCN of Robotics Hull, talking about the advanced creativity thinking and the need to develop more learning factories as they do in Germany was quite inspirational. There was also Teresa Howson, the CEO of TalkTalk, explaining how we needed to think differently about building new technologies. Sarah Powers, the CEO of the University Academy 92, provided an educator's lens on the skill gaps. Trish Bromfield, the country manager of Intel UK, posed the question as to whether Generation Z were ready for the new wave of technologies. But the issue of connectivity in the North was still where there was lurking like an elephant in the room where it has become. I'm fed up of being treated as a second-class citizens. We should not accept what we are given, said the Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham, going down a well-trodden path now with Burnham, as he spoke of how it is simply no longer acceptable for the government to say no to the public infrastructure that we need, at the same time denying giving the North the tools it needs to resolve the problem. This theme was picked up by the South Yorkshire Mayor Oliver Coppard, who says that we are simply fed up of things having done to us. I will not have it the way that we simply lose out again and again in the North, said Coppard. Our Conservative mission is to spread prosperity to every part of the country. 1.7 billion in new levelling up funds will help us deliver that, gushed the government in the autumn statement. Of course, where is all this money? Where is all this infrastructure? All of this stuff that they continually promised? People in the North know what we need. Take Goole, potentially a big deep water port, but because it's got no train connectivity, it holds back. That could be something of a massive renaissance for the North, and even Goole itself, providing hundreds of thousands of jobs if it could create it into such and become such a big major port. This is why I always talk about, when we talk about this again and again and again, it's always the potential is there. The potential for the North is there, but it is just not being done for whatever reason. Maybe it is indifference, or maybe it is just straight up disdain. I generally can't tell you at the moment, but anyway, back to it. So, the audience at this year's Northern Powerhouse are still as committed to the North as they were in 2016. There are some amazing things going on. Advanced medical technologies, manufacturing, new green energies are just that, advanced, and in some cases, world leading. Perhaps, though, if this government really takes the North seriously, they should actually consider turning up to these key events that showcase the best that the North has to offer. Choosing not to will be remembered, and quite rightly so. So, yeah, once again, I think we've said it many, many times. You look at Germany after sort of reunification, and even now still, Germany puts millions of euros towards helping to sort of redevelop the East. And I'm sure there will be Germans who will say, well, it's going a bit wrongly, or whatever. You guys will be able to sort of have your political differences sort of in that, and sort of what it's really meant. But I'll tell you this now. If your government was doing the exact same thing as our government has done, East Germany would never have gotten any money. There would have never been any development. Nothing would have happened. And it just goes to show you the difference between a government that has actually tried. Again, as I've seen before in many of these cases, again in the comments, success and failure can be definitely heavily debated. Certainly for Germany, but here we have a government that talks a big game but cannot deliver. It cannot deliver when it needs to most. And after an election in 2019, where it took those red wall seats on a promise of levelling up, to level up the North, Boris Johnson promising that these towns would never be left behind again. They've failed absolutely spectacularly. If the Tories genuinely, seriously wanted to keep the North, then levelling up should have not only been fulfilled, but we should by now be seeing the results, or at least seeing things happen. But of course, that's not what we got. Once again, we got empty promises and nothing to show for it. And if the Tories lose the red wall, well, levelling up and them not fulfilling those promises on levelling up will certainly be a key reason for them not winning again. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And obviously, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one donation link, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club link down below as well. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.